Welcome to the Horrorcraft Podcast.
Hello, horror fans. It's me, Cass, and
Kylie.
And we are on our second episode of Horrorcraft Reviews. Yay!
Yay!
And today we have another absolutely wonderful title that we have checked out, and that is We Bury the Dead
Yes.
with Daisy Ridley. And this was so graciously provided to us by Sophia from Pixel Scene Media as an advanced early screener copy. So thank you, Sophia, for that. We deeply appreciate you, especially given this opportunity, because Kylie and I talk about this a lot of times, but we do not have the ability a lot of times to go actually in the theaters and watch a lot of releases. So we end up having to wait for releases. So we are so absolutely thrilled to be covering this. This was highly recommended to us by our friend Sledge. Ken, if you're out there, we deeply appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
But we are going to get into some light spoilers. So We Bury the Dead is the story about Daisy Ridley's character, Ava, who is on a hunt to find her husband, Mitch, in a catastrophic event. So basically, there is a nuclear level type event that happens in a specific area. It was Tasmania, and I think they said 500,000 people were affected. So there are talks that some people come back, that the dead come back. And so Ava is on the hunt to find her husband. And in doing so, she meets Clay and later on a soldier named Riley. And Riley. And it is a very just harrowing tale. So before we really start getting out in the meats and potatoes of things, let's talk about the positives of this movie. I will have to say 100% the best way to go into this movie is knowing as little information as possible.
Yeah.
You will be.
I definitely didn't know much about it going into it.
No, and I think that is what amplifies the experience. I will say, if you are looking for a fast-paced, in-your-face zombie movie, this is not it.
No.
This really, in the best ways, kind of took the best parts from movies like Train to Busan and 28 Days Later.
It gave me Night of the Living Dead vibes.
Yeah, it really kind of, for me, merged together all three. So Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, all of those three, I feel like it just took so many pieces. And I really adore that, because I do think for so long we were oversaturated with lots of zombie material, especially coming out of like the Walking Dead craze of things, which isn't necessarily, I want to say, a bad thing, but this is very refreshing. The visuals of this.
Zombies really aren't my thing. They're just not, but I really enjoyed this movie, and like the zombies, it was just great.
Yeah, because almost one of the best parts of this movie is it lets you make up your own opinion on what you think this is going on. It doesn't really specifically give you one definitive narrative over the other. It really more focuses on the human elements of it. And I just love that. And I do think there is something to be said about bringing this type of horror back. So far, we've seen a couple of titles that like get straight out of the gate for 2026 has kind of brought back the best elements of horror. And
I
one of
agree.
those is human emotion. And
Yeah.
this was packed with it. And so I really loved it.
It's just that real life horror that can
Uh-huh.
be just even more terrifying. And there's just something about any sort of like end of the world apocalyptic zombie type movies, or even just like especially like a Quiet Place. That franchise freaks me out. You get to see just these human scenarios, like something that you may not think about right now, but if this were to happen, that you would think about, and how would you feel? And I think it can be just utterly heartbreaking, and a lot of people don't really see that as like horror, but like some of the worst possible things that can happen to you are absolutely horrific, even if it's not blood and gore and someone chasing after you with a knife. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that, and I absolutely agree. I think that's what makes this such a great title, because the human drama elements to it are the front running, kind of overarching story. The apocalyptic kind of layering of the situation is second. And in a story like this specifically, it is very driving in that force. So I really do enjoy it. The visuals on this are dope.
Insane.
Like, just absolutely gorgeous. It is
Yes.
gritty, but not in an overarching way. It's very just kind of like beautiful landscapes, kind of torn back. And
the zombies were impeccable.
Yes. Yeah, and they had their own design to them.
Yeah.
And it really just, again, kind of left something up to your interpretation. It wasn't something very forward in your face. Each zombie had its own style, its own kind of flair. The acting in this, absolutely top tier. Daisy Ridley,
Absolutely.
I absolutely 100% think that you are this is January, and you are in the front running for the year when it comes to female performances in horror, because the absolute grit that is portrayed in this character and the emotion is just so satisfying. There are at times, I do want to point out, there are at times, maybe sometimes, where it feels like things are secondary. There are kind of some like tonal shifts at different times that might seem a little out of place, but I personally enjoyed it. I think
Me too.
if you're listening to this and that's not your thing, just go in knowing that and not letting that ruin your experience. But this movie had so many different acts to it. And when you leave it at the end, you're in both a state of like, what did I just watch?
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. Like at the same time, which I think was great. Top tier acting. The actor that plays Clay, his name is blanking my mind right now, but I know that he was in Gods of Egypt.
Britton Thwaites.
Yep. And he was in Gods of Egypt, loved him in that. But both him and Daisy Ridley, I'm just going to say off the bat, we need more horror with you guys in it. Like, Daisy, a lot of people don't like attribute Daisy to the Star Wars franchise, as they should, because she's a badass. But like, her in horror, there is just something that deeply makes sense. I know she was in Skrull years ago, and that was a great movie, but like, we need more. We need more.
Yep.
wherever you guys are going in the future, please come back and do some more entries in horror because your acting was superb. This story is just so deeply personal too, because it takes the deepest layers of the human psyche, which is what lengths are we willing to go to find the people we love and to undo what we feel like is a mistake is made. So the story of her and her husband and how they're in love, but then there is like them falling out of love, and then there are mistakes made, and then they got into a fight before this, and this is her way of kind of atoning for that kind of falling out. And then when you do find out like the fate of her husband and just some very intricacies involving that, it was just done in such a humanistic manner that I loved it. It was beautiful. Both her and Clay, their character stories are beautiful. They converge beautifully together. There were just so many highlights in this movie. The resort that they're in Tasmania in the end, I was like, sign me up, man.
Right.
But if you could give it a rating, Kylie, what would you say this movie is for you out of 10?
I would say 8 out of 10.
Yeah. I agree.
I would say it's a solid 8 out of 10.
I feel like for me, so going off of last year, okay, last year horror movies, 10 is like a Sinners.
Yeah.
0, 1 is like a The Strangers. I don't know what chapter they're up to yet, but like we're at a 0. So I feel like solidly this is an 8, and it just was really effectively done. If you are going in for something that is super in your throat and splashy, this is not. Now, with that said, there is very cranked up moments in this, very beautifully done moments in this, but it is just more of a layered story. So if you're looking for something that's immediately like just gotta be blood and gore
and zombies, this ain't that.
No, but if you're a fan of like genre staples like 28 Days Later, Train to Busan, Night of the Living Dead is Kylie referenced, any of those type of deep storytellings of like zombie movies, apocalyptic movies, even if you are a fan of World War Z, I would even say this is that kind of movie. It's not as actiony, but there are some really well done scenes in here, and it is just the human driving emotion. So please go check it out.
Yes.
I would definitely say it's a solid way to be starting 2026 in horror. And for me, I mean, there really wasn't a negative. I do see where maybe
I don't have any negatives about it, but then again, like I'm not a huge like zombie apocalyptic like horror fan. Honestly, it freaks me out. A Quiet Place, I've watched all 3 once and will not watch. Nope. But going into it with just no expectations and not really being a huge fan of just like that subgenre, like I really enjoyed it. But then again, you know, me and your taste in horror is a lot different than a lot of people's taste in horror, because we lean more into just kind of the real life, the humanness that a horror movie can have, and just like real life scenarios that can happen. So
yeah, I think it was just more of a peeled back, dramatic kind of look. The apocalyptic side of things took a back seat, like I said, and it's a very humanistic approach. So if you don't like that, go in knowing that, at least give it a shot in watching it, because I do think it's worth watching. but that's just a heads up. But that to me would be the only drawback that I would see. But that is not an issue for me. But if you are somebody that is looking for something that is punched up and in your face, this is not that movie. It kind of builds over time, and it's just, it kind of leaves you very feeling one way or another, feeling both at the same time. And I think that that's actually really fantastic. So there is not a word yet on when the actual VOD release is for the US. When that happens, we will put the information where you could, but right now it is on pre-order. I would highly recommend you pre-ordering it if anything that we've said connected and you feel like that's just something you really want to watch. And then I do know that overseas, if you are one of our fans watching it overseas, that there is a date tentatively in February for it to be available on digital platforms. So please let us know if you do check this out, what you think. And as always, stay spooky. And we'll catch you in the next review. So until next time, bye.
Bye.
Bye.